Okay, we're going to do project 2 now. Now this is going to be an original song that you're going to do either in Logic Pro or in GarageBand. I'm going to do the demos now in Logic Pro, but you can also use GarageBand. GarageBand is an excellent program. It's professional quality and it comes free with all Mac computers, whereas Logic is more professional and it costs around $199. So let's get started with project 2. I'm going to start by creating a new file and closing the open file. I'm not going to save it. And one software instrument it's creating, which doesn't really matter because we're not necessarily going to use that anyway. My default software instrument is just like an electric piano, vintage, which is pretty cool. But I'm going to go ahead and start with some drum loops. So I'm going to go over here to the loops area, click on all drums, and then I'm going to click a keyword in here. I'm going to type in funk so that I can limit this to only funky drum beats. Let's see, here's one called Funky Drum Beat 01. By the way, it kind of reminds me of Rihanna's song Umbrella, which was based on a GarageBand beat also. We'll look that up later. We'll refer back to that. But it's we'll slow down the tempo a little bit too. Instead of 120, let's slow it down to say 90. And I'm going to move this to the beginning. Let's hear how it sounds. Okay, sounding good. I'm going to make a cycle region up here. You can just click up here at above the little ruler, and then you can resize this if you want. And you can use C to turn this on or off, just for a shortcut. But I'm going to make a repeated area with this drum beat. And then I'm going to audition some other things. Let's try some percussion, like shaker. That one's pretty simple. There we go. Now we want to hear if it fits with our beat. So I'm going to click on the beat and then the shaker. And I have my own volume for the shaker window over here too. So it fits perfectly. So I'm going to drag that over here. It's loading the audio files. You always want to drag your loops to a new area below the last track. Let Logic create the track for you. I'm going to loop this out just to 4 measures. Now let's look for, say, congas. Let's listen to, see if we can find some congas. Listen to it with the other track. Okay, not bad. Let's use it. Of course, many of you are probably going to, spend a lot more time choosing your sounds and your beats, but I'm just going to go fast here in the interest of time. So now I've got 3 tracks already. They sound pretty cool together. Let's look for one more, maybe percussion. Maybe tambourine. You can listen to a few of them, but you really have to listen to it eventually with the track. Motown, there we go. That sounds good. Let's listen to that with this. It's cool. I'm going to move it over there and loop it out to 4 measures. So now we have 4 tracks, 4 measures. Now I need a bass line. So you can either try to find a bass loop. For many of you, that's going to be the way to go, because if you're not really a keyboard player yet or a bass player, you're just going to find a loop. If you use a green loop, then you can redo it later with a different notes and stuff. It's really easy to edit the notes. So there's some pretty strange sounding bass loops, but let's try to limit the bass by funk again. Use use my same keyword. This one's nice because it's just one note, so it's going to be easier to do musically. So I'm going to go ahead and use this. Let's make sure it fits with our beat, though. Yeah, it's good. So now I've got a bass and drums. And you can tell it's in C. So I can add all kinds of cool things to that later. If you're not a piano player, you can have a friend who is a piano player lay down some tracks for you, or have your guitar player do something. Or you can just find loops on here and make it all from that. For now, let's find maybe a little bit of a keyboard loop to go with this. So I'm going to look under electric piano, and I'm going to go ahead and type in funk again. I've had good luck with that so far. And let's see what we have here. Okay, let's listen to this, see how this one fits with our loop. Yeah, not bad. I'm going to drag this over here. Now this is where the music theory comes into play. You're going to have to eventually learn more about music theory, because we have to analyze what this piano player is playing. Like a C minor, and then F minor to a G minor. And that should fit over the other bass line that we have, okay. Okay, so now we're ready to go ahead and extend our song out. I'm going to select all, Command A, and copy, Command C, and then put my cursor on measure 5. And I'm going to just Command V, paste this out as many times as it takes until I get to 2.5 minutes or so. I need to change this to custom display. That way I can see the time, which is now 1 minute, as well as the tempo and the measures. So I need to keep going until that time gets up to over 2 minutes, because that's the assignment, between 2 to 3 minutes. So 2 minutes 29, that sounds good. We're at measure 57. The default ending here is 129. I'm going to double click on that and change it to 59, because that's all I need. I don't need my song to be any longer than that. If your ending is too far after your song ends, then Logic can bounce silence at the end of your project, and you don't want that. Okay, it's also a good time to save the project. I should have done that earlier. But I'm going to call this Project 2, Bogle. And like I said, you got to come up with a creative title. So I'm going to call this Funky Spaceship. It's at least somewhat creative. And I'm going to go into our desktop, Fall 2017, MIDI 1. Online MIDI 1, Mike Bogle, and I'm going to make a new folder here for Project 2. It's really important that you have folders for each project, especially in Logic, because it saves a lot of subfolders with your project. So I'm going to save it there. Now, it's copying all those audio files, takes a minute, but we have our whole project, 2.5 minutes long, but it's a little boring, because it's the same thing over and over. But here's the cool thing you can do is, let's turn the cycle region off by hitting C. And I'm just going to what do we want to start it out with? Let's start it out with just the congas. So I'm going to delete this other stuff. And just the congas. Then we'll bring in the tambourine. So I'm going to delete everything else. Then the bass. And remember maybe have the bass and drums come in at the same time, and yeah, and then these and the shaker can come in after that. So, and then the fourth time the piano will come in. So let's see how that sounds. Okay, not bad. I'm going to put a couple of more finishing touches on it. I'm going to go and find like some sound effects, like for instance, a street scene. I just put street in there, but these seem to be not what I was looking for. Let's look at maybe crowd. And you could search for ocean or rain or anything. It's a bunch of things with crowd, remix, party crowd. Let's see what that sounds like. Yeah, I don't want anything quite that happy. Let's go for, here's a city night crowd. Let's see what that is. Okay, that's more what I was looking for. So I'm going to drag that into my project. And let's see how long it runs. I'm also going to hit A for automation, fade it in a little bit. First, I'm going to just move it over to the beginning, have it start right away. And maybe just fade in just a little bit with the automation. And then let's see how long it goes. It goes quite a ways into the project. So at that point, I'm going to fade it out. Turn off the automation by hitting A again. Now I'm going to make a little piano track. Since I'm a piano player, I can we can this is the electric piano sound from Logic that I'm triggering from my controller here. This is both a synthesizer and a controller because it has its own internal sounds, but it's also triggering Logic. So I'm just going to play some stuff along with this and record it. Here we go. Okay, so I played all the way through the piece. We can make a quick fade out the same way we did on project 1 if you want, by going to Mix, Create Automation, Fade Out. But I don't know if it really worked. Let's click on the track there, the master, and we'll just draw it in to make sure that it's going to fade out properly at the end here. And for some reason, our ending of our song got moved to measure 75. That's one of the problems. So we're going to change that to be measure 59. And listen to our fade out. So we have a nice fade out, 2 minutes, 28 seconds. So I have a nice little jazz piece that I created there. I'm going to turn off the automation, and I'm going to save, and I'm going to bounce that now by hitting, actually with Logic you can use Command B. You want to make sure you deselect everything, make sure you set the ending of the song to the right thing, and then hit Command B. Let's just do it as an MP3 right now. It saves room on the hard drive. Check the start and end time, 1 through 59, and 24-bit is correct. We do have some dithering set here. We'll talk more about that later in another video. Offline, that's very important because it's going to do it a lot faster if you do it than real time. And we're going to include the audio tail in case there's any kind of reverb or something like that that we want to leave on there. So I'm going to say OK. And it's going to ask us where we want to bounce it. And it's right there in our Project 2 Bogle Funky Spaceship under the bounces. But I'm going to name it now Funky Spaceship, and put my name in there too, Bogle, because it's just easier to find in case you forget that you named it Funky Spaceship. Hopefully you can remember your own name. I'm going to, now that I bounced the file, I'm going to bring that bounce back into the Logic project, this wave file, and I'm dropping it in there. The reason for that is when you bring it to another location, like maybe even to class, if you do that, that way you'll have the bounce inside the project. Now we can solo this bounce and listen to it and see how it came out. So that way, in case all the media is not the same in different versions of Logic, you'll still have the whole bounce. And sometimes it kind of fattens it up. You can listen to that along with the other tracks, and it'll sound louder, but sometimes kind of cool too. So there we go. That's it. You finished Project 2. Thanks for tuning in.